This is the second part of our lesson for intentional injuries. Gang and youth violence. A gang is defined as relatively tough and mostly street-based group of young people who regard themselves and may be seen by others as a group that engages in a range of criminal activity and violence. Young people join gangs and groups for lots of reasons. One of these is their need to belong, be included, or be part of a group they can identify themselves with, their desire for adventure, and they feel protected and look out for it if they are members of a gang. Illegal fraternity and related violence. A fraternity is a group of people with similar backgrounds, occupations, interests, or taste. The youth may think of several benefits in joining a fraternity. They may see it as a gain in power and protection, as fraternities have a reputation for being a powerful group. Will provide the neophytes in lower classmen guidance and assistance. Some would join fraternities for academic support, and most youths would also join fraternities because of the sense of belongingness that these fraternities would provide. Kidnapping is taking away or forcefully moving a person against his or her will and holding him or her in unjust captivity. The act is usually done for a motive like getting a monetary reward, ransom, or getting some sort of benefit from the person or their family. On the other hand, abduction is the use of deceit or force in order to take a person or a child away from their home or relatives. In abduction, the victim usually knows or has some sort of relation with the abductor. Acts of terror or terrorism is the use of violence for political goals and putting the public or a great number of people in fear. The purpose of this terrorist group is to produce terror in their victims through the use of violence, fear, and pressure. Acts of terror may be categorized into six. These are the following: state terrorism. States or governments can use force or the threat of force without declaring war to terrorize their citizens and achieve a political goal. Bioterrorism refers to the intentional release of toxic biological agents to harm and terrorize civilians in the name of a political or other cause. It includes viruses, bacteria, and toxins that could be used in as an attack. Cyberterrorism is the use of information technology to attack civilians and draw attention to the terrorist cause. This may mean that they use computer system or telecommunication as a tool to carry out a traditional attack. More often, cyberterrorism refers to an attack on information technology itself in a way that would drastically distort network services. In ecoterrorism, the use of violence in the interest of environmentalism. In general, environmental extremists destroy property to inflict economic damage on industries or actors they see as harming animals or the natural environment. Nuclear terrorism refers to a number of different ways nuclear materials might be used as a terrorist tactic. These include attacking nuclear facilities, purchasing nuclear weapons, or building nuclear weapons, or otherwise finding ways to diffuse radioactive materials. Narcoterrorism is the use of violence by drug traffickers to influence governments or prevent governments' efforts in stopping the drug trade. This may involve the assassination of the influential person who are against drug trafficking or killing a government official who leads an anti-drug trafficking agency. Verbal abuse is a form of cruelty that involves the use of words. These words are used to attack, control, and cause harm on another person. It includes behaviors such as angry outbursts, screaming rage, and name calling, which tends to blame and brainwashes and threatens a person. This is done because the goal of the verbal abuser is to control and sway the victim. To better understand verbal abuse, it is better to look at its characteristics. Verbal abuse is hurtful and usually attacks the nature and abilities of the person. It may be obvious or hidden. It is controlling. It is dangerous. It causes a gradual fading of the self-confidence of a person without them realizing it. Verbal abuse is fickle. A person is stunned, shocked, and thrown off balance by the abuser's mockery, angry punch, critical remark, or hurtful comment. It usually worsens, increase of strength, regularity, and assortment. The verbal abuse may begin with put-downs disguised as jokes. Later, other forms might surface. Sometimes, the verbal abuse may rise into physical abuse, starting with accidental shoves, pushes, and bumps. Sexual abuse, incest, molestation, and rape. Incest is a sexual contact between persons who are so closely related that a marriage between them is considered illegal. For example, parents and children, uncles, aunts and nieces, nephews, and etc. Usually, incest takes the form of an older family member having sexual relations or sexually abusing a child or an adolescent. There are lots of reasons why the victims might not report this. One reason is that the victim might be told that what is happening is normal or happens in every family and don't realize that it is a form of abuse. The victims may not know that the help is available or they do not know who they can talk to. The victims may also be afraid what will happen to them if they tell someone, especially if the abuser threatened them. They may also be worried about the abuser and be afraid of what will happen to the abuser if they tell. And lastly, the victims may also be afraid of how the people may react if they hear about the abuse. They are scared that people will accuse them of having done something wrong or that no one will believe them. Another form of sexual abuse is molestation. Molestation is the sexual abuse of a person, whether a child or an adult, by an adult for sexual pleasure or for profit. It occurs when an individual sees another individual as a sexual object and uses this idea to satisfy his or her sexual urges and fantasies, usually by subjecting their victim to an unwanted or improper sexual advances or activity. It may include any of the following: fondling, mutual masturbation, sodomy, coitus, child pornography, and child prostitution. Another type of sexual abuse is rape. Rape is unlawful sexual activity and most often involving sexual intercourse against the will of the victim through force or the threat of force or with an individual who is incapable of giving legal consent. The sexual act may also be considered rape if it satisfies any of the following criteria. One or both people are not old enough to consent, which means one or both of them are below 18 years old. Next, one of them does not have the capacity to consent, which means one of them may not be in his or her right mental and legal capacity to consent. For example, with mental disability, people who have been drugged or unconscious. Next, one of them did not agree to take part, which means the rapist might use physical force or threat to force the victim to have intercourse with him or her. If these three considerations are met, the sexual act falls under the category of rape, which is a criminal offense and it is punishable by the law. And that's it for today's lesson. I hope you learned something about the different types of intentional injuries. See you on my next video. Have a nice day, God bless, and goodbye.